Welcome to this episode of Sexuality After with Heather Tucker. Today, Heather and I have been Facebook friends for quite a while, and neither of us knows how we became Facebook friends because we just discussed that. But I love her posts. She's always has incredibly positive, uplifting posts about marriage and body image and sexuality and finding your own happiness, taking responsibility for yourself. And I just always love seeing her posts, and I really wanted her on my podcast. So I get to bring her to you. And I'm also really excited to hear about her perspective, particularly because she's a Christian. And as you know, if you've listened to my podcast, I grew up in a Christian cult. And so I am very not Christian anymore.
Are you anti now?
No, it's just not what I believe. Yep. And that's, a large part of my journey with my sexuality as well, is coming out of a lot of the repressive messages we get through religion. And you've also actually talked about that in your post. So I want to know how you do that. How are you a Christian and sexually empowered? It blows my mind. So I cannot wait to hear all of that. So, I would love to hear about who you are and what you do and your childhood beliefs around sex and sexuality in your body.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me onto your amazing podcast. I am so excited.
Good.
And I feel like I'm looking at a model. If you guys don't know what Phoebe looks like, it's like, oh my God, I just stepped into the model room.
It's the pink lip gloss. That's all it is. I swear.
I put my pink lip on too.
Nice.
So my name is Heather Tucker, and I am a born again Christian. My title that I give myself is Christian Sex Coach, and I specialize in sexless marriages. And I also help women step into their sexual power, their sexual freedom, their confidence around that, because like I'll share in a sec, it's super hard when you've grown up in the Christian community. And, we were told so many different things growing up, and it's just really hard to break free from that conditioning. And so I've made it my mission. God has called me. I feel a purpose inside. I feel that mission inside where I just feel like I need to talk about it, and I need to actually share with women that, hey, you can still be a full on fire for Christ woman and also be sexually free. I even wore my sweatshirt. I know you can't read it, but this says, God does not say anything in his word about sexual freedom being wrong. So allow yourself to break free. Your husband will thank you. And then I put, girl, unleash yourself. Yes. So my girlfriend actually made this sweatshirt for me. So I'm a walking advertisement. And I feel like I'm a walking taboo around town, but I also love it.
Because I love it too.
Yeah. It literally inspires conversation. And I love it because so many women, like how I was, are just waiting to be given that permission. Yeah. And sometimes that's all we need is just someone that's like us, that's grown up in the same, church background and understands the church background and has heard the same things, and how the verses have been twisted around, I believe, twisted around to try and control people. That's how I feel. And I don't feel that way about all the verses. I mean, I am a firm believer in God's word. I do believe that it's truth. I just believe too, though, that someone can take the verse out of context and make it for their, what they're trying to teach. Yeah. And I grew up around that. And of course, when you're sitting there and, you're like, okay, this person's super godly, they must know what they're talking about. They must know more than me. So I'm just going to believe it. And you're very easily influenced, especially as a kid. You just don't know any better. Yeah. But then as you get older, you start to have these questions. You're like, huh, that doesn't seem right. That's just weird. Is that true? And then if you're open-minded enough and mature enough to have your own mind, you will be able to actually search out those answers for yourself and hopefully have an awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is basically what happened with me. So
Yes, and we'll get into that. But I really love that. Like, I'm all for women being empowered within themselves and sexually empowered. And I love to think that that can happen within religion as well. Like,
Mhm.
within any kind of belief system. Yeah, any kind of religious belief system, I guess.
Yes.
So yes, yes, this is why I want you on my podcast. Okay, so childhood. What are the top couple of beliefs that you grew up with?
Sex is dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't talk about it. I remember I remember this one time, this boy down the street who I had a crush on. I must have been like 13, 14, around there. I hadn't gone to high school yet, so I guess that'd be like 13ish. And my hormones were raging, and I was, getting horny all the time. I didn't understand it, and I didn't have anyone to talk to. And my mom was my best friend. The whole time growing up, I could talk to her about other things. And so I remember this one time I approached her because this kid down the street had said, "Do you want to give me a blowjob?" And I had no clue. I just was like, I acted like I knew what it was, but I didn't. And so I
Yeah.
came home and I was like, "What's a blowjob, Mom?" And this is her response. "What? Who told you that? Who said that? I'm gonna call her mom." Like, she was like so mad.
Yeah.
She was so mad. But I mean, that was like the emotional response around sex, no matter what kind of thing I tried to talk to her about. And she always reacted like, good Christian girls don't talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You don't talk about it. You save yourself for marriage. You'll find out when you get married, is basically like the response that I got from everything. And so because it was so hush hush, I felt like it was dirty. I didn't even need to have anyone say it was dirty. It just felt like it was.
Yeah.
And then I started to feel like something was wrong with me because I was having these cravings. And a couple of my other friends had started to masturbate. And I asked my mom about that too. And she's like, "Mm-mm, you don't do that. That's evil. You're opening up the portal to Satan," and like all of these things, like I've heard. Yeah. And so I just felt like, I don't know. I felt like I was living in shame and guilt for something that I now understand is just a natural body thing, a scientific thing that our body craves, and that God actually designed us to be horny and to want sex and all the beautiful things, that it comes with. But yeah, back then it wasn't like that. And so when I came into like teen years and I had my first experience with, a boy, kissing and things like that, like even just kissing, I felt guilty doing that.
Totally.
And then I lost my virginity at 17. And that was after my parents had gotten divorced. And my mom moved us in with this man that she was dating. And so I was like, well, she has to be having sex. How can she be having sex outside of marriage when we were taught the whole time that it was wrong? And I remember being so mad. I'm like, how can you be such a hypocrite? How am I supposed to receive that? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? And then I remember her saying, well, your father and I actually didn't wait to have sex, before we were married, even though the entire time that we grew up, that was what she said to my sister and I. So I just felt like it was this big fucking lie. I'm like, no, that is not okay. So I think it was like a week or two later, I had told my boyfriend no the whole time. And I was like, I'm ready. And I did it because I was mad and out of rebellion. And I just wanted to like experience it and get it out of the way and like figure out like what it felt like and all those kinds of things. And so that was like the childhood teen, stuff. And then coming into adulthood, being married and then having kids, I still didn't feel sexually free. As a matter of fact, my ex-husband, who was very abusive, I was only married to him for 4 years. But during those 4 years, he made me feel like I was a slut for wanting to purchase lingerie, for spicing up the bedroom, toys, videos, like anything I could think of that was in a
Yeah.
sexual form,
Yeah.
dancing, like all of the things. He would just put me down and make me feel like something was wrong with me.
Hmm.
And so coming out of that marriage and then now marrying my now husband, Chuck, who also grew up in the church, and he was a virgin when I met him.
Yeah.
And so he's only been with me. But like coming into that relationship, I still wasn't fully sure of who I was, like who is Heather, you
Yeah.
know? And I kept feeling like I had to stuff me down. And even though I was having these feelings of like wanting to come out and bust out of like this shell, that I was in, I didn't feel like it was okay. And so I kept stuffing it down. And I
Yeah.
really didn't come out of myself and have that, awakening, the spiritual awakening and the sexual enlightenment until I was 44.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to be 48 this year. So really it's only been for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
So
And what prompted that sexual awakening? The courage to come out of your shell? Like, what was that?
mm, what really actually helped with that was going back to dance classes. I saw my friend that lives here locally, and she had posted a video of all of these women in heels at this dance class and dancing to a really sexy Chris Brown song. And I was like, what is that? What is that? And so she invited me to go to the next week's class. Super nervous. I was like, can I do this? I haven't danced since high school.
Yeah.
And even when I was in high school, it was just hip hop. Like that was the stuff that was real popular back in the 80s, and early 90s. And so I have never, like the way that they were dancing was like touching themselves and like all of these real sexual poses. And so I was nervous. I was definitely scared. And I felt my heart racing even as I took off in the car and I was like driving down the hill. It's only like 5 minutes from here, the class. But I remember walking in the door and I remember the dance teacher and all of the women completely just welcomed me. And it was just this amazing sisterhood from the very moment I actually
Yeah.
walked through the door.
Yeah.
They didn't care how old I was. They kind of looked at me funny, like, wow, I'm surprised that you're here. But then I got to know some of them and I told them my story. And I keep telling them every single time, because I've been going to these classes now for 4 years every week. And I've even started teaching classes to people that can't access this class. I was like, well, I can teach a beginning class. I've been doing it long enough now. So I can
Yeah.
teach beginners. So I've been doing that online,
Yeah.
too, which is like super fun. But like hearing that they are already free in their 20s is so amazing to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I keep telling them, when you guys get married, when you have kids, do not lose this.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy after you have the responsibility of the kids and the job and the husband, and you don't know what his opinion is going to be about these types of classes. You could actually stuff down, yourself. And so that's a huge thing that I am always talking to them about. But that's pretty much when that happened, was 4 years ago. And it just, I remember the feeling inside. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was almost like, I felt it already for years, right? It was in me, but I had stuffed it down. So I felt like when I started to dance to the music and I started to learn some of the movements, it was almost like this warm, bubbly sensation that just started to come out. And I remember giggling like during the class because it felt so good.
Yeah.
It felt so good. And then I remember going home and crying like the whole way home. And I was like, oh, I have needed this my entire
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And that was like the beginning for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so how did that translate into getting past a lot of your conditioning? And could you also touch a little bit on your marriage and the effect that it had? Like kind of about your struggles with, because I think your marriage was like you didn't have a lot of sex, and then
Yeah,
you struggled
we were
with like
actually mhm.
taking responsibility for your own sexuality, or like I want to know about that part of your story as well.
So what was the first question that you asked?
How did you go from that bubbly feeling to getting over a lot of your
Oh,
Christian
the
conditioning?
spirituality stuff. Um, I mean, it's definitely been a process. It didn't happen like all of it right away, right? So for a little while there, during that initial time, I actually stopped reading my Bible and I stopped going to church and I stopped I mean I still prayed and I still, I still sing. Like I love to sing to
Yeah.
worship music. So like that connection to God was still there, but like I don't know how to explain what exactly happened. I just know that I felt really good and I hadn't felt that good for a real long time. And I wanted to learn more. Like I wanted to learn more about my body. I wanted to learn more about woman empowerment, female empowerment. And when I would search that out in the Bible, I couldn't find anything. So I kind of derailed a little bit from Christianity. I didn't completely walk away, but I did seek out other type of coaches, that would help with the female empowerment, just so that I could get some answers, because no one in the church knew how to answer me. And a few of my Christian friends, as they saw me go to the dance, and then I'd be posting my videos on Facebook and just about my experience with the class, they really started to judge me. And I actually lost a lot of my church friends.
Mhm.
And they stopped calling me for lunch, and they thought I just totally walked away from God, but I didn't. It was just this other side of me that was coming out that I was learning about.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to get to know like this sexy beast, the sexy beast that was like coming out of me.
Totally.
So that's basically what I did. And then as far as my marriage goes, the sexless part for us actually went on for 12 years.
Mhm.
So that actually started before this happened. So at the beginning of that, it was more like the sexless part actually came from some trauma that we had been through. I had lost a couple of babies um, through miscarriage at 4 months. And so I'd already started getting big on both of them and had already heard the heartbeat and everything. One of them I was supposed to go and find out the sex of the baby, and then the heartbeat was not there. And so I had to have a DNC on that first one. And then the second one that actually came out in the toilet, which is like a horrible, horrible experience. Chuck actually had to dig that out of the toilet. It was so horrible. I never saw it, but he did. So we
I'm
were
so
both,
sorry.
yeah, I know. It was really hard. I'm fine talking about it now.
Yeah.
Unless I'm around other women that have just had a miscarriage and they're losing their shit. And then it brings up a lot, for me,
Totally.
because I'm empathetic and I want to like hug and you're going to get through this. Um, but through that, I actually, in order to heal, I ate. So I ate my way through that trauma. And I got all the way up to 235 pounds,
Yep.
which I'm 5'3". So that looks like a lot more on a 5'3" body.
Yep.
Um, and so the sexlessness kind of started around that time. Like I still wanted, sex, but for some reason Chuck didn't. And I remember after we finally had Josh, who's now 16, the first time that we were ready to have sex again, I did the normal thing. I climbed on top of him, just like I had, in the past. And I remember him taking me, lifting me off of him, and putting me off to the side.
Yeah.
And that hurt. Like that hurt. I felt very
Yeah.
rejected.
Yeah.
But then I thought, you know what? Maybe he's just not feeling it right now, whatever. So it didn't like sink in as total rejection on that first time. But then it kept happening. kept happening. And I would ask him about it because I'm very vocal
Yep.
and I don't mind talking through feelings. Like if you got some feelings, I'm totally open to talking about them. But all he could give me was, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And that went on for years. Now, we weren't completely sexless for those 12 years. We did have sex. It was probably once a month, once every couple of months. But I am like the kind of person that my love language, now that I understand myself more, is physical touch. And I have explained this to Chuck where it's like, it's not even the physical act. It's like when we're coming together, I actually feel your soul. Like I literally feel our souls imprinting on each other. To me, it's like super powerful.
Yeah.
And when that was pulled away and I didn't have that, I felt completely disconnected. And there was times when I would go to sleep crying. There was times when I would, ask him, like have conversations with him. We went to counseling for a few months and that made it better a little bit, but not that much. And then finally this, I don't know if you want me to keep going on the sex thing. Finally what ended up happening, because during those 12 years, I used every single tactic I could possibly think of to figure it out. Because I'm like a fixer in that way. It's like, and I have to know and understand. It's like super hard for me to like not understand. So I was just trying to figure it out. And I remember like I have a calendar and I would circle the days. Like, okay, here's where we had sex. And then I would show that calendar to him. And I would say, look, like it's been this long. Like, and I would use a tactic like, don't you need it too? Like you're a man. Like, don't you need that release? Like, I know how stressed out you are at work. Like, how can you not actually need it?
Yeah.
And so I use that tactic. I also use the Bible, which that never fucking works. Don't ever use. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, if you're listening to this and you're sexless, do not ever use scripture on your husband. That is like the worst thing that you could possibly do, which I didn't really know that's what that I was pushing Chuck away. Like there was a lot of things that I actually figured out that was actually pushing him away. The constant reminding, the constant nagging, the bringing up the Bible verses. And I did that for years, and then I would even say things like, there was a really cute plumber that came today. And I swear to God, I almost jumped on him because I was like that desperate. And of course that upset him, too. And just, the thought of me going outside the marriage and stuff, so when I figured out that I was doing, a lot that I needed to take responsibility and that, I was doing quite a bit to actually push him away. When I stopped doing those things, that actually opened up space for Chuck to feel comfortable around me again. He didn't feel the pressure. He didn't feel the nagging. He didn't feel like every time that we were going to go to have a conversation, it would be about what he's not doing right, how he's making me unhappy, things like that.
Yep.
So he started to be able to relax and be at ease and actually enjoy my presence. And it gave him that spark, back. And it gave him the time and the chance to actually be horny, because he got relaxed enough. So, and that actually was, let's see, was it 3 years ago? Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago. And I'm trying to think if the sexuality, I mean, that the empowerment that I then, was bringing to the bedroom, he did enjoy seeing me enjoy myself. And he likes when I actually step into my power in the bedroom.
Yeah.
He likes it that I'm not waiting for him to approve of an outfit, of the position that I want to do, if I want to bring a toy, if I want to masturbate in front of him. Like he likes it. Like he actually likes that power.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that men are actually attracted to that sexual confidence.
Yeah.
And so when you don't actually have that and you're feeling insecure about yourself, maybe your body, if your body's changed after kids or whatever, if you're coming to the bedroom and you're like not in your power, that actually makes a man very insecure about themselves. And then they're not showing up fully either. So it's like, if you could show up on your own, it's going to give your husband a permission to step into his power. And then when you guys are both coming to the bedroom super powerful, it's like magic. I mean, there's so many fireworks in the bedroom. It's really amazing.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all that. I love it. I love hearing your story, like in a nutshell, but like the whole story. It's amazing. Okay, so you have a lot of experience to pull from when coaching women on sexless marriages and trauma as well, which is amazing. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Although not easy, obviously, for you to have that experience, but it's powerful that you're transitioning that into helping others through the same thing.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good that my pain has a purpose to it.
Yeah. So did you find, and I ask this because this is my experience, so I'm wondering if yours is the same. Did you find that as you became more empowered and as you embraced that bubbly feeling, I totally know the feeling you're talking about, like joy and your inner wild woman, and
Yes.
I don't know, it's like kind of all put together. As you embraced that, then you realized, oh, I don't actually feel any further from God. Like, I was told that sex is dirty, or that, if I am this sexually empowered woman, that's a sin and that's horrible, and it'll take me away from God. But like, actually, I feel fine with God being this way.
Yes.
In fact, maybe I feel closer to God.
I do.
Being this way. And so your experience kind of taught you that how other people interpreted the Bible was wrong. Is that somewhere near what happened?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it's perception and how things are perceived, and the Bible is living and active, and so it can speak differently to each person. I mean, it says the same words, but each person has their own life experience that they're bringing to God's word and to their relationship with Jesus. I just know that the questioning of, stepping into my sexual freedom, that I saw that as coming from my childhood, from the preconditioned. But once I was in it, I didn't feel the shame. Like I was before this. Oh, this is just coming to me right now. This is going to be good. Okay. So before I broke free, I worried that I would feel the shame and the guilt.
Yeah.
And and the disconnect from God. So that fear and the worry is what kept me from even experimenting and trying it. Yeah. So once I was on the other side, though, none of that was there. Literally none. Like there has been so much freedom and joy. And I literally feel God having like this approval nod.
Yeah.
And I feel like he created us to be this way. And I and I feel so called to just shout it from the rooftops that it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That you're actually going to feel closer to God. Like you were made to be feminine, to walk in that power. He made us to be like that.
Yeah.
And
even if you look at
our bodies, I feel like I can cry right now because it's like it's just so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Even our bodies, like I mention this all the time, but our clit has 8,000 nerve endings, and it is like solely for our pleasure. So if you believe that God created our bodies, then he created you specifically to experience pleasure, and a lot of it.
Yes. Multiples. Yes. Multiples in a row.
Yes. Seriously.
It's interesting too when I'm coaching women around sex. I kind of like talk to them like this. I'm like, okay, think about it this way. If you were only, and this is about masturbation, I was like, if God created our body just for man to please us, just for him to be the one to touch, do you think that we as a woman, if we were to touch ourselves, don't you think if it was only meant for the man to be the one to give the pleasure, that if we're touching ourselves, we wouldn't feel that pleasure and we would only feel it when the guy is the one doing it?
Yeah.
And then they're like,
yeah.
yeah.
Or it would be like inside.
Yeah.
Our vaginas or something, like it wouldn't be on the outside where it's like
Yeah.
access.
It'd be like way up in there. Well, I mean, I actually, it's really funny about the G spot. I actually, I thought it was this whole mysterious thing because I've been with so many freaking partners, Phoebe, over the year. I've been with a lot of partners, never felt it. Yeah. Never felt it. It wasn't until my girlfriend described how to feel it. So like, I don't know if there's anyone out there that doesn't know where it is, but now that I know where it is, it's awesome. So she actually described it to me as like, she's like, you can find it yourself by sticking your finger in and having like this come hither with your finger. So like if you're doing it to yourself, you'd be like this, you know? Yeah. And then when the guy is on top or from behind or whatever, like if he knows how to move his hips and almost like he's doing a body roll, like when women do that body roll, it's the same. Like, yeah. So if guys can learn how to do that body roll, then they will actually hit the G spot like every time,
right?
Like every single time. And then of course, if you're on top, then you can have control, and then you have a better chance of actually like slowing it down and like feeling it. Yeah. Now I haven't actually had an orgasm during that because every single time I get close, I feel like I'm gonna pee. And I don't know what it is. I'm like super nervous about the pee thing. And so I just haven't actually released that. So that's something that Chuck and I are actually working on right now, is just getting more comfortable and like not caring if it is pee or if it's just the cool liquid, that's amazing liquid. So we're getting to that point where I think we're going to be pretty close because we've been trying. So
totally. Have you tried on your own to mimic that? Because that's something that helped me. Just doing it on my own. And like having a towel down, because then it didn't matter if it was pee.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it took all the like embarrassment out of it for me.
Yeah, I can see that. My favorite way to orgasm is clit and fingers in. And now that I know where it is, I can feel it. And then, so I have very strong orgasms that way.
Yay.
Yes. So it's been really really amazing. I just haven't had it like with the penis. So
it's sure so fun to learn to orgasm in new ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while.
I think so too. Yeah. The female vagina is like so amazing. I've been learning so much stuff about myself. Yeah. Cause I used to think it was just the clit, but now I actually, in my classes, I do a whole anatomy thing because as I've learned, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I wonder if other women didn't know that underneath the clit, there's like that little loose skin on either side, and you can actually orgasm just from the skin without even like, and I didn't know that either until like several years ago. So
there's so many ways women can orgasm. It's
so awesome.
Unbelievable. Our bodies were so made for pleasure.
That's what I think too. I'm like, God created us to experience pleasure. Yeah, I truly believe that.
Absolutely. What do you wish people taught young women or women in the Christian community now about their bodies and sexualities? Because like a couple of things. One is that we're often taught sex is like your sexuality is dangerous. Be careful, cover it up. You know, you're not supposed to look too good. You're supposed to kind of wear like dark baggy clothes. Like I wasn't even allowed to show my shoulders growing up.
Right. Same.
Shoulders so sexy. And if you do turn somebody on accidentally, it's your fault because you weren't covered up enough. And you know, you can't even like barely talk to a boy. You know, you have to like be really careful and danger. That was like the big message I got. And then when you're married, oh, it's totally okay. It's like this thing that's like bad, like how do you break free dirty, from that? And then oh, now it's good. You should do it. It's healthy. It's like how are you expected to do that as a woman. Like that's so
It's like you have to
confusing.
unlearn everything, and
Yeah.
for most people it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you want to teach women, young
Hmm.
women in this day and age as a Christian woman?
I mean, it's so different when I watch young girls now. Young girls these days are becoming more like young boys, as in they're just giving themselves to everybody. Like, so I see a lot more of that versus um waiting, for like the person that you're going to be in love with. So it's almost like women are players now. So I'm not really sure. I don't really know about that, like as far as that goes, but in the Christian community, I actually wish that um I wish that there would be a level of safety, that's still taught, that you don't want to throw yourself out at just anyone. Or when you go into certain situations, make sure you have a girlfriend with you. Like you wouldn't want to walk in TJ by yourself with a mini skirt, because men are we're animals by nature, right? So if you have someone that's not controllable, then you could put yourself into a situation, but um, it doesn't mean that we can't not be ourselves. So I would like to see a level of just being open, just to have more conversations about it, and for it not to be so hush hush, and for it to not be portrayed as evil. And um and i i feel like all the leaders in the church and the youth group leaders, and like it could go all the way down to like when you have go to summer camp, for Christian summer camp, and they break you off into the small groups. I mean, that would be an amazing time to have like a round robin where you just go around and you talk about it, and just give young girls a level of just being comfortable, with it.
Yeah.
And then still of course teach the biblical principles, around waiting for marriage, even though I don't even know who waits anymore, honestly. I didn't. I mean, I didn't. But there are still some people that do, that hold that hold that
Yeah.
the standard. But I think just a level of comfortability, and for it to not be portrayed as evil and dirty, and that basically that just has a time and place, for it, and it can be beautiful and with the right partner, and in love, and
Yeah.
and those types of things. So
Do you think you would teach masturbation like as an option that you can be sexually empowered within yourself without having sex with other people, while you're waiting for marriage? Or, how do you feel about like touching your body before marriage?
I mean, I do now for me at my age. But I'm going to tell you a little masturbation story real quick. My parents got divorced when I was 17. My mom took my sister and I to therapists. The very first thing that she said on the very first session is, "Have you ever tried to masturbate?" And when I came out of that session, I told my mom. My mom blew her top. "How dare you tell my daughter to masturbate?" So, masturbation within the church is taught that it's dirty.
Yeah.
Still today, as a matter of fact, I was on a Clubhouse room just yesterday, and I was one of the speakers. And everyone, so far, I've been on just a couple of weeks, so I'm fairly new, but everyone knows what I do, and they're always so open to having me on stage, and they want to hear, my experience and everything. But I started to talk about masturbation, and there was men and women in that room, and I was very free. I was just, I told it how it was. Man, right after that, there was like a couple of guys that came on that said, "No, that's not right. Pleasure is for a man and a woman. You need to be married." And so and then some women came on, and same thing, they had the same ideals. So I think what we're finding in the church still today is that masturbation is, it's like a big no.
Yeah.
And so I almost feel like, gosh, when I go into these Christian rooms, maybe I need to be a little more guarded, or at least more respectful, or like to learn how to talk about it in a way that I can still be respectful, but still be true to who I am, and the mission, that I'm on. So I'm trying to figure that part out, because it's still really it's still really taboo and people are so against it.
Yeah.
Yet
Even,
they're struggling. They want
yeah.
to touch themselves. This one girl came on and she asked me a question, Heather, what do you think about masturbation and toys and things like that? So I gave my whole thing. And then the other people came up behind me, and then I could tell that lady, she didn't say anything else after that. I messaged her on Instagram and I said, hey, you know what? I just want to like applaud you for even asking that question, because I know that that was probably real scary and uncomfortable. And I just wanted to say that I admire your bravery, because I know how hard that is to talk about that stuff in a church atmosphere. And so she was very, very thankful, that I messaged her and thanked her, for that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Even in non-Christian settings, it's interesting. I didn't expect this, but masturbation, especially masturbation within marriage, is
That's
a
still looked
little
at
bit
as
of
being
a
not
touchy
good.
subject.
Yeah, it's still
Did that play a part in when you were coming into your sexually more liberated self, but you were still having issues having sex with your husband? Did you find that masturbation played a role? I ask because I find that when I take time to self pleasure, it like changes everything. Like when I take time to
like,
self
do you mean
pleasure,
like I
I
don't I
learn my
don't want
own
my husband
body.
anymore like
No,
that?
no,
Oh.
like I'm horny. So, and if he doesn't want sex, that's fine. I'll just self pleasure. It's like
Ah.
taking responsibility for your own pleasure and touching yourself, giving yourself connection and love and orgasms, and not like he has to do it for me all the time. It's his job to give me orgasms, to give me pleasure. So I'm going to do it for myself. And then it allows me to be accepting whether he wants to or doesn't want to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Because either way, I can get some pleasure. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. I know that I don't feel as rejected. I don't take it in as rejection anymore.
Totally.
I just take it in as he just doesn't want it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking it personal anymore. I will say that my entire childhood, since I was 16 or 17, I can't remember. I know it was before I actually had intercourse, but I've always masturbated, and I was a very big porn watcher. So you don't find that a lot, and with women, it's real common in guys, or at least maybe women don't talk about it or share that they
Yeah.
do. So I that was one of the things that when I was really involved in the church before I got married the first time, I was worked with the kids, and went to singles retreats, and I did all the things, to make sure I was close with God and everything. But I felt guilty at that time. Like I still did it. And I stopped watching porn, but then I struggled with porn. And then I stopped watching porn, and then I struggled with porn. Um, and so porn or not, I still have masturbated that whole time. Like it's
Yeah.
just been a part of my life.
Yeah.
Like I literally can't even imagine. Like I literally can't imagine, not. Um, I mean, I just love it so much.
Yeah.
I just feel like I expressed myself, during it, and yeah, you're right. It's like a way of loving on yourself, not in a way where you're only thinking of yourself, um, but it's almost like you're appreciating the creation that God made in you,
Totally. Yeah.
as you're doing it. Yeah. Um, so hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, another one is that you get to know your body better,
Hmm.
especially if you masturbate in an exploratory way where you try new
Right.
things, then you can learn new things about your own body and be like, hey, try touching me this way. I didn't know this turned
Yeah.
me on, but I did this the other day and like it was really
Yeah.
great. So try this and put your fingers like this and do this kind of motion. You can
Right.
teach somebody else, like your
Yep.
husband, how to give you pleasure.
And that's why I promote it, because I feel like if you don't know your body, then how are you going to tell your husband and be vocal about it? You're just going to have him eating you out or something. And then you're like, God, I wish you would go over there, but you're like not saying anything. So
Yeah.
it's like it gives you your voice, to know your own body. And you know that your husband is there to please you. Like wants to make you happy, and he wants to make sure you got a good experience out of it. so that, you guys are wanting to come back again,
Yeah.
and then do it again.
Yeah.
So I think it's like really important, to find your voice in the room, to know your body so that you can tell him like what those spots are. Yeah, I think it adds to the level of intimacy when
Totally.
you're able to talk about those things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool.
Hmm.
Hang on, I want to check my list. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. What has been your hardest one understanding of sex/sexuality/body image?
What do you mean?
Like, what has been the most difficult thing for you to learn?
Mm, I'm not sure. Trying to think what you're referencing to.
Was anything kind of around sex, sexuality, or body image? It was really hard one. Like, you really struggled to kind of um, get to that new place of empowerment. Let me see if I can give you
Mm,
an example. Um, like for me, I think one of my hardest one was dealing with shame, like the shame of being a sexual being. It was really hard to face my shame. Like the way that we are taught in coaching is to like actually talk to your shame, like see it in front of you and talk to it and like actually face the feelings that are inside of you. And
mm,
so for me, having the courage to do that was like it took an immense amount of courage.
I know what to say now. Okay. The biggest thing for me is in my business because I used to sell weight loss products. And so everyone's fine talking about weight loss products and supplements and things like that. But as soon as I started to break free and talk about, my sexuality and sexual empowerment and show my dancing and showing me, moving the way that I moved and twerking and all the things, I got the most flack from people online. So that in the beginning made me question myself.
Yeah.
And I actually took it to God. God, maybe I read this wrong. Like, are they right? Because they actually were telling me
Yeah.
you're going to be leading women away from God. And that
Yeah.
was the very thing that I didn't want to do. That
Totally.
I literally would write in my journal after journal entry, God, is this okay? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because I feel this in myself and I feel like I really want to help other women. So then when I started to go out and talk about it, oh my God, I even had I don't know who it was, but they reported me to Facebook and I actually was not able to access or post. I could still get into my account, but I couldn't post or go live or do anything in my group or nothing. I couldn't even do Messenger. So it was like an active account that was just sitting there. And that went on for a couple of weeks. And I was like, how am I going to move, beyond this? And so I had to learn one, that that's going to be expected. People were, used to seeing me talk about one thing. Now here I am totally going off and doing something else. Two, there's a bunch of Christian women that just aren't ready yet. Like they're still under that, the conditioned, the religious conditioning. And that's very, very hard to break, free from. And so I had to tell myself that, and I had to build up the belief in myself that it was good, that I was doing the right thing. And I still had to show up in spite of the hate, that I was getting. And so as I continued to show up, people saw I was like real serious with it. And then when I started to create courses and offer one-on-one coaching around sex, the women that were ready were ready.
Yeah.
And some of those women that had deleted me off their Facebook and had blocked me are now back. And now they're acting like nothing's ever happened, like they didn't say anything. It's so hilarious. But God is using my experience for his glory. I feel it, I see it. there's so many doors that have been opened that I never thought would ever happen. Like, especially with Clubhouse. Oh my God, I am loving Clubhouse. And what I love about it is that I have really learned to trust my voice. I've really learned to trust what I feel inside and speak it, and speak it with authority, and speak it with power, and be so in love with the process. And from that, so many new doors are opening that I never even imagined would. The one of the ladies on there, she actually is like, we do marriage retreats every year. My husband and I, we've gone through some stuff as well. And we've been looking for someone to talk about sex. And here you are, a born again believer, and you're talking about sex, and you're so open with it, and you're so comfortable with it. And she's like, we really want you to come to our next one. And that's a paying event. So I don't know when it is. I just know it's next year. But like, I never knew anything like that would be possible.
Yeah.
And it's all because I feel like I stayed true to the calling, and I moved through that anyways. So.
Yes. To trust your calling, trust your message, trust your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That sounds kind of excruciating to have had your like whole business shut down.
I know.
Because of something somebody
It was.
said. And
yeah. Now I can't say blowjob. I have to say, I just call it bananas now. So now everyone knows when I say banana, they know what I'm talking about.
It's funny. Code words. They're the best. Hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That was really great.
You're welcome.
Yeah. What has been your biggest sexual regret?
In my whole life? Having an open marriage. Oh my God. I thought it was going to solve every fucking thing. All it did was add more stress, because now I had another person that I had to set up times with and work stuff out. And I felt like I was starting to develop a relationship with that person. And then he was also sleeping with other people. So then it was like, I was not only being rejected by my husband, I was also feeling the rejection from him. So it was like a double whammy. Another thing that I thought when I had that experience is I thought that what was missing from our relationship was sex. So I thought that if I could get the love from Chuck, and then I could go out and have sex with other people, that it was like, I thought I could have the best of both worlds, basically. What I very quickly, well, not very quickly, because at first I went bonkers for it. Oh my God. In the beginning, this person that I was with was amazing. I had never had like certain positions like that. And, because growing up, it was just missionary and like doggy style. And so not a lot. And so I really feel like the experience, what I got from that, what I liked and thankful for and grateful for, is that it opened me up even more sexually, as far as being comfortable with my body and positions and stuff like that. So I was able to bring that back to the bedroom with Chuck, which is like really cool. What I didn't realize though, was what I really was after was that soul connection that I talked about in the beginning. Yeah. And I wasn't getting it. I never felt it. And so it quickly became, and that went on for 9 months. And it quickly became like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I am like ready to come back home. Yeah. So I think, I feel a little shame, a little guilt over it, even though I know God forgives me. And I have to call it what it is. Like it was cheating. Like, and I know that there's certain terms, that people use today, throuple, whatever, people use, but like the way that God views it, like God views it as cheating, because I was bringing, somebody else outside of the marriage. And so that's the main thing that I wish that I didn't. But at the same time, it's like, if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be able to also help women that are thinking, like that are in sexless marriages and are thinking that, going outside of the marriage, is going to give them what they're missing. Because it really is not, the grass is not greener on the other side. A lot of times it's worse, and you could end up with a narcissist person and actually go through an abusive thing like I did, where like I actually believed a lot of the words, and I didn't even know what narcissism was until that person that I was with.
Yeah.
So you could actually be opening yourself up to even more pain, which is definitely not what you want.
Yeah. I know this would probably be really difficult to summarize, but what would you say what would you say to somebody that's listening to this that's in a sexless marriage? Like, what's kind of the top 2 advice pieces that you give somebody or something like that? Other than working with you.
Well, I always want to know, because sexlessness comes from so many different things. It's not just from one thing.
Totally.
So, like, you can't come at someone with the same advice. So, I always have to know, when did this start? When did this start? Has this always been like this your entire relationship? Has there always been one person that wants it more than the other? Because sometimes people are mismatched, sexually. So I always like to know when it started, how long it's been going on. I like to know, did you go through something traumatic? Did you have a loss of a baby? Did you lose a parent or anything, like a job loss, financial hardship? Like, did anything happen that caused a lot of stress and trauma and pain, that then led into where you saw that there was a pulling away, so I like to know that first. Once I understand the root, then I can actually go backwards with somebody and help to heal, that root, and get them to open up again, to sex. If they've been rejected by their husband, or if their husband has rejected them, or they've rejected their husband, either or. I like to talk to them about like opening up their eyes to what rejection looks like, and that it could be something as simple as, your husband comes up behind you and maybe he lightly rubs your ass, but then you turn away and you go and do the dishes. So it's not even like you're saying no, but that's saying no to them. So I like to understand about all of those things when I go into helping somebody that is sexless, so that we can actually like look at their whole life, and work on the whole life, not just, the sex.
Yes. Sex is an aspect
Mm-hmm.
of who we are. So
Yeah.
what I hear you saying is sexlessness in a marriage is not, just because of one of 3 things. It's because of everything in your life,
It's
everything that's
complex.
happened,
It's
everything
complex.
it's complex.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we are. We're
Yep.
beautiful, complex human beings.
Yeah. Now I am learning through sex school that there's several things you can do if someone has like erectile dysfunction. So that's something cool that I never learned, before.
Yeah.
So there are some women that come to me where it's like a medical thing, or their husband has diabetes and it's causing that, or something like that. So, I mean, those kinds of things you can kind of work on too, because I have the health coach background as well. It's fun for me to actually start working with the health side of things in a marriage too.
Yeah.
Because when you can get someone healthy again, a lot of times that will just fix the sexlessness. Because when you're feeling more sexy, you got more energy, all those things, you're not falling asleep on the couch as much, when you're obese, you fall asleep all the fucking time. So, those types of things are really fun for me too.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I love that you can bring that into it, because you're right. And it plays a big part.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. And even with how much energy you have for sex too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And being a mom and like being all tired after the kids drain you all day. It's like you need that.
I mean, that happens even when you're super fit, but more so if you're not, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids are exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Preach.
Okay, so I want to respect your time. So I just want to ask you one more question.
Okay.
What is one thing you wish you knew as a teenager about sex and sexuality?
Ooh. This might sound funny. but it's not the size of the penis. I used to think that if the penis was big, that automatically meant that you were going to have great sex with somebody.
Yes.
Like
Ah,
literally,
the myth
yeah,
of the size of the penis.
I know.
Yes.
And like guys think that we care about the size. I mean, yeah, obviously it feels good when it's bigger and it goes in, because there's more to work with. But like literally, if they don't know what they're doing with that penis, it could be the horriblest like experience
Totally.
ever. Oh
Totally.
my God. Yeah, I've had some bad ones. And they're like, bump, 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 bump. And they're like, oh, was it as good for you? I'm like, what the fuck? No, like you didn't even do anything. Like you might as well just give yourself a hand job. Like
Yeah.
seriously.
Seriously.
So yeah.
I know.
So I think that's probably it. Is it not the size, it's what you can do with it.
Yes. Like that needs to be on a t-shirt. It probably is on a
Wait, let me
t-shirt.
write it down. My friend is like making me shirts like all the time. It's so fun.
I'm sure it is on a t-shirt already, but
I'm sure it probably is.
like it's really frustrating because I find that it's still like it comes up. I don't know how as women we can like get this through to guys. I mean, some women really do prefer a bigger penis, but I think most of us realize that it's really how you use it, no matter
Yeah.
what size it is.
Yeah.
And
And like how confident that you are with it, just like with women.
yeah,
It doesn't matter really what size you are. If you're totally comfortable in your own body and your own skin, and you show up to the bedroom in that power, and you're like, I'm the fucking shit. I'm here to like please you, please myself. Let's go. And like you're so into it.
yeah,
Like that's what matters. And I think that's what
yes,
matters
that's
too.
the sexiest thing.
That's what matters with a guy too.
Yeah,
Like learn to bring up your own body confidence, because and body confidence can come even with skinny dudes who are wishing that they had six pack, and they're thinking that women want like this washboard abs, which really we actually kind of don't. Like the majority of the women that I talk to, they actually like to have a little fluff on their guy. It makes them feel more, human. They can relate to the woman that also has the fluff, and they'll be more appreciative of the woman, her body changing over the years as they have the kids and everything. So I just think that there's more commonality and more like realness, with that, and not a lot of pressure to have to keep up, with a certain body image. But yeah, guys have body image issues just like women do,
yes, absolutely, they do.
and sometimes
And
more.
yeah, yes, totally. It's
Hmm.
so sexy to be real and authentic in the bedroom and be like, this is
Hmm.
who I am. And like, let's have fun. Let's
Yeah.
explore. Like
Yeah.
enthusiasm and
Yes.
curiosity. And
Yes.
it goes a long fucking way.
It does.
It goes a long way. Yes. Cool. So where can people find you?
I am like all over the place.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So if you need, and I'm assuming you'll put links, right? To
Yes.
things.
They'll all
Okay.
be in the show notes.
Okay. So if you are in a marriage and you are sexless and you want to figure out the why behind that, and you want to go from sexless to sexified, okay, that's like my main jam. I also help women to release themselves sexually. So if you're wanting to break into having that sexy confidence, what I would recommend that you do is go to my website and actually fill out this questionnaire. It'll just give me a background kind of history of where you and your husband are at, and then we can get on a call and I can actually see if I'd be a good fit to work with you. So that is bit.ly/relationship help, for the number 4 and then the letter U. So relationship help for you. So I'd go there. And then as far as socials go, you can find me on Facebook at Heather Tucker. T as in Tom, Tucker.
Yep.
And then on Instagram, I'm at Heather Tucker Motivates. On YouTube, it's the same, Heather Tucker Motivates. On Clubhouse, I'm at Sex Coach Heather.
Yep.
So I
Amazing.
think that's it. I think that's it.
If there's more, they're down below. But you can find her. You can find her somewhere.
Yes.
whatever platform they're on, you're on. So
Yes.
it's good.
And like, don't be shy. Like, that's the thing that I want to tell you. If you're listening to this and you're like, God, I would love to get help, but I'm like, too shy to even talk about it, like just reach out still. Because if you're that shy, then you really need the conversation. You need to learn how
Totally.
to become comfortable with the sex conversation. And I would just love to help you with that. Like, even if you don't hire me as a coach or join anything, like if I can actually be that person that will give you the permission to be more comfortable, like I would love that. I would just love it.
Yeah. Even if
Yeah.
it's just saying, hey, Heather, I'm really shy
Yes.
and I want to talk to you about something, but I don't even know how to start.
Mm-hmm.
From Susan. Right? Like, that's
Yes.
great.
Yes. Yes.
That works. It works.
I know.
'Cause gets it
Anything
out
works.
there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing with myself, with my listeners. This has been a really great interview, a great podcast. I'm so glad that I had you on.
Me too. I'm glad that you asked me.
Yes.
Thank you.
What you're bringing is so important to the world. And I'm really glad that you stuck with your calling and you stuck with your message and you stuck with your voice because it's really important. People
Mm-hmm.
don't talk about the reality of sexless marriages, and there certainly isn't a lot of help out there
Mm-hmm.
for them.
Yep.
But
Especially
it's
if
like,
you're
it's a big
a Christian.
reality, especially if you're a
Yeah.
Christian. But it
Yeah.
is
That's what I
totally a
think.
reality.
Because like when that was happening with me, I didn't feel comfortable even sharing it in my women's Bible group, and I shared everything else, but I couldn't bring my voice out to say, because sex has just been such a taboo thing. So yeah, I think especially if you're a Christian or Catholic, or I even have a couple of clients that are from India, and their conversation around sex is like zero. Like they have nothing. All of them are virgins when they get married too. So they have no experience, no talk, and they just expect the people to learn. So yeah, I think that it's good as women. I feel like our voices are needed now more than ever. And so I love what both of us do. We're
Yes.
helping so many more people than we even realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many more than
Agreed.
we realize.
Yeah. And even your voice in those chat rooms where people are like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's wrong. You're still a voice. Like you still are getting your message out there for people that are listening. Like you don't know who's listening, who's like, actually, maybe it is a possibility that I can be a sexual woman and a Christian woman.
Yep.
You know?
I know. That's
So,
how I feel too.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.